I really, really love my mother and I'm her biggest fan, but I always almost felt sorry for her. I feel the urge of my mother, married too soon. They set me out on a path of men. I found no love, only traces of God in my loneliness. In drought, I peel your fingers off my body. In rain, my throat. I wake with the sunrise, the rays against my lashes moving like Kurdish dancers. Nodus lies in wait, trying to escape my lungs. My arms are painted by the colors of his anger, purple as the tulip's baba grows every time he longs for home. The men here break bones over tea and have dessert after. So I let him finish and have dessert after. The colors of my skin change with each passing day. Baba still calls me his flower. Do not cry. Your mother did not cross oceans to see her daughter drowning. Breathe in. The air is light. Your heart is too heavy to be carried by a man. Hi, my name is Soz, and this is the verses. I think my identity shows in this poem by the way that the cultural expectation of how you should be as a woman versus when you go out into the real world and you discover that what you've been told about womanhood doesn't really protect you and it doesn't always serve you. And sometimes when you go out in your path, you have to do things differently, even though it can hurt the people that you love the most. There's a lot of work out there talking about leaving a culture or having one foot in two cultures, and I think that I'm not any different in that. The only difference I think was that I grew up in a really conservative Muslim household that was so conservative that even all of my Muslim friends thought it was weird. So it was like, it wasn't like I had a group of Muslim friends that could identify with what I was relating to. And then I had like my American world that obviously they didn't understand anything. It was more so like no matter where I went, it was your family doesn't understand you. Your friends think your parents are too strict and your family values are too strict, and then your American friends totally don't get it. And they honestly think like some of the strictness is normal for Muslim people because they don't really know anything about Muslims, especially when I was growing up. So I think the poem really speaks to the dangers of like cultural expectations and also the process of how it kind of forces you to figure out what you actually want. What was the line that started the poem? The one that started it. I really, really love my mother and I'm her biggest fan. But I always almost felt sorry for her, which I hate to say, but she's always done things the way that she's supposed to do. And though she's found a lot of meaning in her work and as a mother and a stay-at-home mom and a home, taking care of the house and having her own friends, she's always been like attached to my dad, and her life was like an extension of my dad's life. It's very like he's the head of the household, so this is where we go. When you're a child, you want to be just like your mother. And I lived with my family all throughout college, so I always wanted to be like my mother, and then I figured out like being that way really hurt me, and I just couldn't, I guess, be as strong as her or anything like that. The one thing I want readers to know about me, though I may speak about my culture and my upbringing and my family, and though it is often dark, it doesn't mean that I am opposed to Islamic values, and it doesn't mean that I'm opposed to cultural values. It just means that I see both the good and the potential bad. Those things don't define a group of people. and they don't define me. It's just part of the larger story. I'm supposed to tell you what other poets do wrong. I think sometimes people try too hard to be what a poet should be in terms of the way they use language, their like flow, and even honestly sometimes what they write about, because you see other people writing about certain things and you see like what the audience reacts to. So sometimes you want to mold yourself into people who are finding quote unquote success. As soon as you lose like the personal value of making art, it no longer becomes your art, you know, it becomes something else and it changes your relationship to it. It's just not the same. A successful poem quenches your heart and you feel it squeezing inside your chest. That's it.
I shot it straight from my mouth. My lips, 2 mules of lynch rope and Jim Crow.